do the same. And it's kind of crazy to admit to this now, but I actually did have a great amount of respect for Sneako. I'm
glad that you said that, Chatter, because that honestly made his statement about Sneako much more tame in comparison. Because honestly, the type of information that you revealed anonymously in this chat as a 41-month subscriber is the type of information that the CIA needs to come to your house at gunpoint, put a black bag over your head, and immediately fly you to the first private jet terminal so that they can get you airborne, okay, get you literally into fucking international airspace to violently torture to get this information out of you.
President fell ill after returning from Wuhan, China.
New York, California, Illinois, and Connecticut.
I mean, he immediately started 2020, the year of our holy Lord.
To stay home. New York's governor today telling non-essential businesses in his state to reduce their workforce to 0.
That was such a fun and relaxing
9901, 9901 emergency. We got individuals breaching the gate at the 3rd precinct.
Blissful part of our lives. It definitely didn't have an everlasting effect on my worldview or my ability to socialize like a normal human being. Honestly though, looking back at 2020 and the pandemic as a whole, I think something that is oftentimes forgotten in the memory of the pandemic is its power in radicalizing the American working class. I, for one, was introduced to leftism and socialism as a whole solely due to events that took place during the pandemic.
Obviously I've retained these beliefs for a very long time, and I've been advocating for these same things for a very long time, and I will continue to do so far past its popularity, as it is quite literally dropped out of favor. However, one thing I will say is that at the top of the hour, there's a 3-minute ad break. That won't go away unless you subscribe for $5 or for free, but that wasn't actually what I was going to say. I'm sorry for fucking hitting you with that ad break. That was nasty with it. That was a fucking at least 9 out of 10. Suck my dick for all the zeros, okay? One thing I will say is this. For as many people as I was able to radicalize in the 2020 Black Lives Matter, George Floyd election cycle coverage, I think that many Zoomers personally recognized that in the aftermath of all those protests, nothing came of it. And I think then they also were then further radicalized, I guess, into either being anti-electoralists, which many of them I don't think did that, or just completely tap out of the system altogether. They were like, we did it, we did the thing, we protested for Black Lives Matter, and nothing happened, and now we're done. And now we're done. And obviously, that's not how this works. That's not how this works at all. It's a long and arduous process. You're not going to get immediate results, and that should not stop you. But I do think that there are plenty of people who I think were very much interested and involved in political movements that just kind of dropped it completely.
And this channel, North Star Radio, from its inception, was inspired by things I've learned since the beginning of the pandemic.
During his time in office, Henry Kissinger oversaw a massive expansion of the war in Vietnam and the secret bombings of Laos and Cambodia, where as many as 150,000 civilians were killed in the U.S. strikes. As Kissinger told the military, quote, anything that flies or anything that moves. The
thing about growing up in America, and the reason so many American leftists have a distinct memory of a radicalizing moment, is because our entire school curriculum is basically a fabrication. We're basically fed lies about the world our entire childhood, until one day you learn something that causes you to realize everything you know is a lie. Becoming a leftist is never caused by the things we're taught in school, but rather it's caused by a realization.
Yeah, which is why it's extra ironic that conservatives say that shit all the time, dog, where they're like, oh, they're teaching you how to be gay Marxist is school. And it's like, no, they're not. They're teaching you the basics of history so that there is some level of social cohesion, which is, profoundly important in nation state development. Okay. One of the most important parts of it, other than like having a military, is literally having like the same education, which Americans can't even fucking comprehend. It goes against their own nationalist project that they want to fucking implement. But that's besides the point. I digress. My point is, in school, they don't teach you to be fucking woke. They don't. They barely teach you the adequate assessment of history to begin with. They could. They don't.
That everything you're taught in school is a lie. And from that realization, your mind is able to open up and accept new understandings of things you already thought you understood. And then a snowball effect occurs, where each and every discovery causes more doubt in our current system, until one day you become a full-on tanky, dressed in all black, ready to bomb a— Nah, I'm just kidding. Or am I? I grew up in a liberal household. My parents voted for Barack Obama both times, and I was always taught to love my neighbor, recognize racial inequality, respect people's sexual identity, like when Obama legalized gay marriage in 2015. Or 3 months after he legalized gay marriage.
I do love that that's the HRC, Human Rights Campaign flags that they're waving, which famously is a institution that routinely gives positive marks to Raytheon for being pro-LGBT.
Legalized gay marriage in 2015. Or 3 months after he legalized gay marriage, he decided to airstrike a Doctors Without Borders hospital in Afghanistan. We don't talk about that. Suffice to say, I grew up in a loving household where I was taught to love all people. But thanks to the faults of liberalism, I was quite sheltered to the things that were happening around the globe to much less fortunate people. Speaking of liberalism, I fell down the alt-right pipeline.
Yup. That happens too. Because there are so many inherent contradictions inside of capitalism that liberals simply do not choose to address and honestly cast aside. So in that sea of contradictions, when you experience some level of volatility and you do not have a good answer for it, there are always going to be reactionary opportunists that tell you a fun little story that still, much like liberalism, will send you on a journey that is idealistic. To get out of that, you can either A, understand the world through a materialist lens and engage in the immortal science of Marxist-Leninism and dialectical materialism, historical materialism, understand everything that way and start using that as a building block for your own personal ideology. Or you can go in the other direction. Liberalism relies on idealism. That there are good people and bad people. And who are the good people? Well, the right wing will tell you that the good people are the Jews. At the end of the day, it always goes back to Jewish people being the singular force of evil. So, either you can be a based anti-Semitism destroyer akin to one Vladimir Ilyich Lenin, or you can be a anti-Semite who says stuff like, "Oh, I'm so red-pilled and based." Same, I was an uninformed, normal liberal that fell into the alt-right pipeline. Was Shatter My Worldview were your critiques of Jordan B. Peterson in like 2018 and 2019. Now, let me tell you something. This is precisely the reason why so many of these motherfuckers who fancy themselves to be non-ideological or even, in the most devastating way, leftists or liberals or progressives that spend almost all of their time left bashing, shitting on fucking tankies and, these are the red fascists or whatever the fuck. Those guys are very dangerous because a lot of people are in their ideological journey and they don't recognize things. They just like fall for the aesthetic. So when they look to someone like myself and they're like, well, he's saying a bunch of shit that I don't, that go against the way I've seen the world. And then there's another guy right there who's going, no, I'm the real progressive. That guy actually, that Hasan guy, he's not. you're of course going to be quick to go, okay, well, I want to continue, you know, saying like a bunch of edgy shit, which I do too, by the way, but edgy shit in the reactionary way and not edgy shit on like the leftist way. I will not have to confront my own personal biases, and you know, I get to call myself a progressive and a liberal. Fine, fuck yeah, let's do it. That's the reason why a lot of those dudes are not just charlatans, but they are actually dangerous charlatans. All right, let's continue. Alt-right pipeline.
The alt-right pipeline.
The alt-right pipeline that sucks vulnerable white teenage boys in, makes them angry at the world, makes them blame all their problems on minorities and shit.
And the whole point of the alt-right pipeline and the pyramid of violence is that folks become desensitized and begin to dehumanize other people gradually over a prolonged period of time. And this seeps out as a cultural phenomenon, and it changes our culture, and it makes big...
I was extremely right-wing as a child watching Paul Joseph Watson or whatever his name is. I got my worldview shattered because I watched a video about leftist architecture is destroying our culture, and I couldn't be asked to give a shit. Wait, what? That's it? That's what your radicalizing moment was? I mean, I usually love stories like that when people just come in here and they're like, I used to be a hater of yours. I started watching your videos. I realized, like, man, you know, you got some good ideas.
Bigotry and racism more acceptable in our culture. People don't fall down the rabbit hole suddenly. They tend to sink in slowly, and the more they're surrounded by...
Like, that's what I mean, by the way. I just want to... Fuck, I keep pausing. But what I'm talking about is, like, what I've done for people who found themselves on the fucking alt-right pipeline that went through the Jordan Peterson stage all the way to, like, you know, the Paul Joseph Watsons or whatever. People are trying to do to me, but it's fucked up because, like, the people that are trying to do that are literally doing that while also simultaneously claiming that they're fucking progressive. And that's what's really frustrating. A lot of people out there, if they were just honest about their worldview and they were like, I'm not a fucking progressive, I just like debating, I'm not a progressive, I like arguing, I will literally fucking align with Nazis from time to time for the funsies, and that makes me this, like, you know, impossible to conceptualize guy who just likes to troll online, then that's one thing. That's a thing that I could deal with. It's the classic, yeah, it's the I'm pro-Palestine, by the way, motherfuckers that come in here. Hasan, I came in on Editorgate. It sounded so fucking outlandish. I had to investigate, and you changed my mind. I was a liberal all along, but you put me further left 100%. Anyway.
By other bigoted people and people with prejudiced ideas, the more rapidly that dissent will go, individually and as a society.
Looking back, that was obviously an incredibly embarrassing part of my life. However, it was also a very powerful and important piece of the puzzle to my story. And I don't think I'm alone in that. To briefly explain the phenomenon, it basically all begins with the dreaded social justice warrior owned compilation.
Do you think men and women can work in the workplace together?
I don't know.
Without sexual harassment?
We'll see.
We'll see. How many years will it take for men and women working in the workplace together?
More than 40.
To get a sense.
We don't know what the rules are. Like, what? Here's a rule.
So brilliant.
How about no makeup in the workplace?
Why would
He's
that
so
be
brilliant.
a rule?
Why should you wear makeup in the workplace? Isn't that sexually provocative?
No.
It's not?
No.
Well, what is it then? What's the purpose of makeup?
Some people would like to just put on makeup.
Why?
I don't know why.
Why do you make your lips red? Because they turn red during sexual arousal. That's why.
That was such a fucking sad, pathetic self-report. That this man has, like, never talked to a woman as a full-blown human being. And in his mind, there's no other alternative. Like, women don't do this shit for themselves. They don't want to, like, look a certain way to have, like, some semblance of confidence or whatever. It's just, it must be me. It must be what I came up with as a guy. I know better.
After one too many, you're being recommended videos of a similar genre. However, they're filled with a lot more bigotry and hatred. Hatred that is hidden behind a cloak of intellectual thinking.
How can you argue that racism is not a driving factor in
This is one of my favorite clips of Ben
income
Shapiro.
inequality?
Because it has nothing to do with race and everything to do with culture. And when you have a culture that doesn't... You know what? Explain to me. You explain to me why black kids aren't graduating high school. Explain that one to me. Explain to me why black kids are shooting each other in rates significantly higher than whites are shooting each other. Explain to me why 13% of the population is responsible for 50% of the murder. Explain to me.
I hate to call him out, but I think Ethan Klein was the beginning of my descent into the alt-right pipeline. He made a lot of this sort of social justice warrior-owned type content where he like made fun of social justice warriors. He eventually acknowledged this and made an honest effort to cut ties from that part of the internet space. Up until now, where he seems to have courted a large leftist community, all thanks to his partnership with Hasan Piker.
This is to help people like you, Hasan.
God, we both look like shit.
Ladies and
back
gentlemen, we are all domestic terrorists.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, dude. Yes, of course, because we're not talking about Jews at all. We're talking about Israel.
I'm deciding for myself to not do that show anymore. Me and Hasan are still friends, and this has nothing to do with Hasan, anything he's done.
Eventually garnering an audience.
Yeah, don't cry because it ended. Smile because it happened, okay?
Too far left for his own liking. By the time I graduated high school, I was a full-on Bernie bro. Beyond Bernie Sanders, I was really attracted to Andrew Yang at the time. I now understand that he's just some tech bro that has weird band-aid solutions to capitalism. But at the time, I was really intrigued by his optimism.
Another dub for fucking HasanAbi Piker, baby. Another fucking dub. Day one hater of Yang Gang. Day one hater of Tulsi Gabbard. I fucking dookied on both of them. And there were so many motherfuckers even back then when I was a much smaller content creator, okay, when I wasn't where I'm at right now, so many motherfuckers kept yelling. So many, burping a lot, sorry. So many motherfuckers kept yelling at me. So many motherfuckers kept saying, Hasan, you don't understand. Yang Gang, Yang Gang, Yang Gang. He's so good. UBI, UBI, UBI. I was like, no. I am on that Gabbard train. Shut up. Every one of the fucking Gabbardians, every one of the Gabbardians, and I talked about how positive they were to the space because, like, they just were a fucking crank magnet, right? Every one of them Tulsels is now, like, fucking far-right psycho freakazoids, okay?
Optimism and his futuristic solutions to a lot of American issues. These political figures really shaped my worldview.
Gabbardians of the Galaxy, yeah.
At the time. And they made me think that I knew everything I needed to know about American politics and the entire world. However, as the pandemic rapidly approached, causing my life as well as everyone else's to turn upside down, I soon realized how much of the world I completely misunderstood.
This is how people are actually feeling. Yeah, how I feel about it? This is the way about it going? No. But is everyone perfect? No. What I'm trying to say is, everyone feel like that. Everybody feel like that.
On May 25th, 2020, George Floyd was murdered by Derek Chauvin, along with the assistance from 3 other Minneapolis police officers at the intersection of Chicago and East 38th in South Minneapolis. And on the following day, protests sprung up around Minneapolis. While peaceful at first, the Minneapolis Police Department assisted in the escalation of the protests, causing them to turn into violent riots. Now, I've mentioned this before, but I live in Minneapolis. I've always lived here. I was born here. And I'm obsessed with Minneapolis. I love it. I have no intention of leaving. So when I saw parts of my city being destroyed, being set on fire, being looted, it was a hard thing to see. And I was really confused. I had a bit of an existential crisis at the time because the people causing the destruction, they were my people.
By the way, how the fuck does this video have 600 views? This is criminally underrated, dog. This channel is awesome.
I agreed with Black Lives Matter. I supported Black Lives Matter. I was 100% against the counter protests. I was supposed to support this. But when I saw people I supported doing acts that I could not, in all honesty, support, I didn't know what to do. And a lot of my friends agreed with my perspective, which wasn't helpful at all because I wanted to learn what could bring someone to do such acts, but I just wasn't able to at that time. I have a really distinct memory of tossing a disc with my friend just days after the riots had begun. And I was talking to him about how I support the cause, I support the movement, but when I see a...
God, he's such a lib. Dude, he was such a lib, dude. He's like, yeah, I support it, but also like, their actions.
Protest turn into a violent protest or into a riot, I just couldn't support that. And in response, I kid you not, my friend said, yeah, all lives matter, not just black lives. And in that moment, I had like another existential crisis because my friend, who I'm not friends with anymore, agreed with my view that the protest being violent is not...
Yeah! This is a good wake-up call for liberals in general. Maybe that's a good radicalizing moment for some libs, is like, wait a minute, the fuck's going on? Why the fuck am I agreeing with Ben Shapiro? That's gross. He's gross. He's very conservative. He has no care or consideration for lives in general. Why am I agreeing with Ben Shapiro? What's happening? Is a good question that many liberals who agree with Ben Shapiro should ask themselves on the issue of Israel-Palestine. Progressive except Palestine is a very real issue in the progressive community. Fuck.
Not a good thing. But he also went a step further and said that all lives matter. And I was like, is this the person I'm agreeing with? This is the side I'm on? I don't want to be on this side. I sort of realized in...
Hasan Isabai said, I had the same realization with Israel when I found out I was the only liberal in the room at a Zionist event. Yeah, because you were like a campus Zionist, right? That's like all of the people that care that much, all the people that care about politics to that degree in college are either going to be like the most insane leftists you've ever met in your entire life, who obviously are in the chat right now, and I feel weird, calling him out like this, and they should probably chill out a little bit, or the most unfuckable nerds, like that wear, weirdly enough, a suit and tie for no reason at the college campus that they're going to take business classes or whatever. It's like, it makes no fucking, it makes no sense. It's just, it's all the young Republicans. Like, they just all look like so deformed. I don't know.
In that moment, that if I'm going to speak out against the violent protests...
I am proud of you guys for protesting for Palestine, though, with all the crazy politics Andes that watch me at college.
I'm on the wrong side. I'm sharing the perspective with people I don't like. People I do not want to agree with. So although I misunderstood how people could come to cause so much destruction in their own neighborhood, I realized I had to open my mind and hear other perspectives and try to change my own, because I knew it was incorrect. I knew I needed to shift my perspective to the proper direction. Funny enough, one of the online figures that was key in me changing my perspective about the riot.
OP before HasanAbi, I don't know about seeing all the buildings being destroyed, man. It doesn't look good. OP after HasanAbi, an armed proletariat must suppress the bourgeoisie in order for the withering of the state. I mean, look, I said what I said all the time, that it's like, yeah, it's not nice. You know what's really not nice, though? Murder. It's like, yeah, I know buildings are on fire. That sucks, okay? That sucks. It's really shitty. I'm not going to sit here and fucking be like, no, it's sick, it's pog, okay? But, like, you know why it happened? Because a guy got murdered by the state in broad daylight. You know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, the only thing that sucks about property violence, like, just harm done to a property, is how it impacts the human beings that have an association with that property, either like a spiritual association you might have with a building or some shit, you know what I mean? Maybe it's your family home, or like what financial hit you're taking as a consequence of your fucking small business getting lit up. So that's it. It's still, at the end of the day, a toll that it takes on humans. No one intrinsically cares about buildings on the virtue of them being buildings that exist. It's really stupid. Unless you're a liberal, in which case you do care about that, and that's weird. I don't get it.
riots is someone who is now banned off of YouTube because they moved to the alt-right and became like a Andrew Tate wannabe. And his name is Sneeko. Now at the time, he wasn't like that at all, but rather I would consider...
Wait, that was his friend? Wait, what did he say?
Funny enough, one of the online figures that was key in me changing my perspective about the riots is someone who is now banned off of YouTube because they moved to the alt-right and became like a Andrew Tate wannabe. And his name is Sneeko. Now at the time, he wasn't like that.
Is this the first time in your career on Twitch where the reacts get more viewers than the news? What? No. No, there was a major time in my career where reacts used to get... Bro, MasterChef got me 40K, 50K average viewers. What are you talking about?
At all.
Good old days.
But rather I would consider him like a leftist, or not a leftist, but at least a progressive. He lived in New York City at the time, and as the protests went on, he made a lot of videos of himself participating in the protests, as well as encouraging his audience to...
I fucked Sneeko in college and he was a munch and a simple mouse. Shut the fuck up.
Do the same. And it's kind of crazy to admit to this now, but I actually did have a great amount of respect for Sneeko. I'm
glad that you said that, Chatter, because that honestly made his statement about Sneeko much more tame in comparison. Because honestly, the type of information that you revealed anonymously in this chat as a 41-month subscriber is the type of information that the CIA needs to come to your house at gunpoint, put a black bag over your head, and immediately fly you to the first private jet terminal so that they can get you airborne, okay, get you literally into fucking international airspace to violently torture to get this information out of you, okay? That's the type of shit that they need to be on to be able to reveal this information under normal circumstances. You willingly gave up that information, okay? Like, I'm talking hanging upside down from a fucking jumbo jet, okay? Black bag over your head. You got waterboarded, nipple clamps. You're getting electrocuted nonstop. Only then are you like, yeah, that's right. I fucked Sneeko in college and he was a munch. But you volunteered that, and I respect you for it. Respect.
Up to him because he made these really good videos that made me feel heard, like before he went to the alt-right. So to see him on the streets participating in these protests...
Actually, that's fair. I realized it years later when he got banned from YouTube and it was a news story. To be fair, I have maintained the position. It's like weird to say because I think your personality and the things that you say do actually like change the way I think people even experience your physical presence. And I used to say like he's a good-looking dude. I don't know why he's doing this kind of shit. And now I can't believe I would even say that. So I understand why you would have, you know, fucked him many, many years ago. It's just still embarrassing to admit it later, you know, after the fact.
Tests, as well as encouraging his audience to do the same. It was a very powerful thing for me to see. To see him do that, I'm like, okay, I guess it is a good thing. I'm gonna listen to this guy. And I did, and he actually really changed my perspective about the whole thing. It's crazy to look back on it now because dude's just off the deep end at this point. But I was still kind of confused. I still needed to learn more. As the pandemic went on, as far-right movements grew in America, as people were struggling to make ends meet due to very little support from the American government, I grew more and more interested in politics. And later that summer, after the riots had subsided, the H3 podcast uploaded a new video. An interview with Hasan Piker.
I have to say, Hasan, first of all, thank you for joining us. Very glad to have you with us.
The video was great, not only in introducing me to Hasan Piker, but as well as introducing me to the concept of anti-capitalism entirely. Because one thing really stuck out to me in this interview, and it happened almost immediately. There was one thing that Hasan Piker said that completely changed my life and redirected me to an entirely new direction. In the very first minute of the interview, Hasan called himself a leftist, something distinctly different from a liberal.
Do you use the word liberal? I'm not even sure how to describe it. But like left-leaning.
No, yeah, I wouldn't even consider... I don't consider myself a liberal, but in the American political lexicon, I guess like I'm super liberal. That's what they... that's what Americans think liberalism is. Like the more the more left you are, the more liberal you are, even though there is a genuine distinction between the leftist and the liberal. But yeah, I'm progressive. I guess that's the catch-all term.
I like
Notice how I'm fucking hiding. Oh my God. I should have just kept it going, man. I should have just kept saying to everybody, oh, I'm just a fucking, I don't know what I am. Don't worry about it. Just listen to what I'm saying. Oh, God. It's just like immediately. First of all, it is not a mark of shame to be a socialist, okay? I do not believe that. And that's precisely the reason why I'm a stubborn asshole who will openly say that I am anti-capitalist, I'm socialist, I'm democratic socialist. I don't give a fuck, okay? No, I wasn't shy about it. I just knew that, like, that automatically closes so many fucking doors for people because of the infinite amount of Red Scare propaganda. People are positioned against it like they still have an existing socialism out there that they fucking hate. You know what I mean?
Progressive.
Yeah. Who wouldn't want to be progressive? It's in the name.
Yeah, it's the one of the things that immediately makes people treat me with bad faith.
Never heard this word.
Like, can you imagine if more people didn't know that I'm like, oh, out and about socialist or whatever, right? And who the fuck would ever get mad? Oh, progressive commentator buys a fucking mansion? That doesn't hit the same as, like, socialist commentator buys a mansion. A mega mansion. Hammer and sickle memes galore. That's the difference. You know what I mean? Think about that. You were totally right, by the way, about leftists on my campus being fucking crazy. It literally happened while I was there, and in retrospect, it's fucking hilarious, especially since it was the SJP president. FSU student Shelby Soup throws chocolate milk on campus Republicans. 11 of my people are fucking dead. Left-wing activist is arrested and charged with battery for throwing chocolate milk on Republican students and calling them Nazis after mass shooting. Violence is abhorrent. I hate that. You think you'd be effective if you didn't express your views? It doesn't matter, because I would still be advocating for the same things I'm advocating for. I would still be engaging in a materialist analysis. It's just that when you get slapped with a sticker, you are now addressing not only like historic violence being done in the name of socialism, but you're addressing the violence that wasn't even done, that people attribute to fucking Karl Marx even. You know what I mean? It's like I'm no longer addressing like the crimes that like not crimes, but like the violence that has been committed in the name of socialism. Now I have to fucking address the black book. You know what I mean? How many Nazis did the USSR kill? How dare you do that? And it's like, what the fuck? You can get way more people on your side and listen to you when you don't blow your cover by using leftist-ass words. Yeah, I think so. You wouldn't be as popular, I promise you. You wouldn't get criticized for hiding the fact that you're socialist. They call you a coward. You are doing the right thing now. No, I think people would get it. Because, like, there's so many negative connotations associated with it. I mean, look, I made the decision I made because I was like, I think it's important, okay? I think it's important. It's important to fucking say what you are, what you believe in, because regardless, like, you can also disperse all of the fucking stupid, silly misinformation that is associated with a term, right? And I think part of the reason was because of Bernie Sanders. Like, Bernie Sanders openly, throughout his career, unflinchingly said he was a democratic socialist. And I got the courage from him that, like, if he can do it, and if he has done such a good job of, like, showing the rest of the world what socialism actually is, then yeah, I should be able to do so as well. I don't really care. Which, ironically, they also shit on him for the house thing, and I should have fucking known. But that's when I should have been like, oh, fuck, man. This guy's got like a shitty-ass log cabin, an apartment that he's renting in D.C. because he has to. He's a senator. And a fucking, like, an incredibly humble home in Vermont. And these motherfuckers make it seem like he's got chateaus, okay? Like, because he's selling books and shit. Like, they're mad that he's selling books for money. Ridiculous. Ridiculous. Disgusting. Gross. Anyway, whatever, let's get
before, but it made complete sense to me. Because before politics, the thing I was most passionate about and thought about the most in my day-to-day was humanity.
This video is really well done.
Human existence and human consciousness and our relationship to nature. So when I realized there was something beyond capitalism, the thing I had learned my entire life to be the only true system, I fully accepted anti-capitalism. Because thanks to my obsession with the human consciousness and our relationship to nature and the world around us, I realized that capitalism is inherently working against humanity. It is a system that entirely goes against my already held humanistic beliefs about the world. From that day on, I was forever hooked, forever in need of more information, because I knew that my current understanding of the world was completely inaccurate. I needed to learn more. Hasan Piker really helped me understand domestic issues and our political environment here in the United States. He was well versed in articulating the flaws of our system and how a socialistic system would look and operate. That was all fine and well. I was learning more and more about American politics and the need for a mass socialist movement, but I needed to learn more. I didn't consider myself a communist until I learned about dialectical materialism. This is the idea that thoughts and events are caused by the material condition of a person, not their identity, like religion or ethnicity. And then those events or ideas caused by the material condition then go on to affect people's material condition.
Dialectical materialism is a philosophical framework that combines the principles of dialectics and materialism. It posits that reality is shaped through the interaction of opposing forces, known as dialectics, and that the material world is the foundation of all phenomena. Dialectical materialism asserts that social, political, and historical developments arise from the contradictions and conflicts inherent in the material conditions of society.
I'm no professor. I still don't really know how to completely define it, but it's quite simple, really. Oh, there's a terrorist group over there? Yeah, they didn't become terrorists for no reason. Something had to happen in their material condition in order to cause them to become the terrorists. It's pretty simple. The person who introduced me to dialectical materialism, and the person who really just opened up my mind entirely to American imperialism, is Eddie Liger of Midwestern Marx. Something Eddie did differently than Hasan Piker was that he really focused on American military intervention around the globe. I've always been really interested in geography and like maps and things, so learning about American imperialism really piqued my interest. Eddie talked about countries like Venezuela or Cuba or DPRK, North Korea. These are countries that all Americans think they know everything about because we've been taught to despise these countries.
North Korea is also responsible for that state of constant warfare. North Korea does illegal nuclear weapons tests and threatens their neighbors constantly.
So your actual beef is that they threaten South Korea. South Korea, the country with millions of dollars in funding from the U.S., who constantly keep a supply of troops at the 38th parallel, including U.S. soldiers who are stationed in Korea. So the U.S. has their troops over there, and the DPRK doesn't have their troops over here, but they're the aggressors? Okay, Vosh. I'm not sure how you can call North Korea the aggressors in this situation because they've made threats when the U.S. backed the far-right Singham Rhee dictatorship who murdered millions during the Korean War, including
communists, suspected communists,
filling the city of Pyongyang with bodies as the U.S. bombed every single building over 2 stories tall. And after failing to get the DPRK to bend to their will, the U.S. went to the UN and manufactured a voting plan to divide the country in half. And on that divide, the U.S. and their far-right allies in South Korea have kept troops ever since, while also keeping the DPRK under an embargo so they can't trade, holding their country in poverty. Are the DPRK really threatening their neighbors here? Or are they saying, please leave us alone and give us national sovereignty?
So when Eddie was successful in changing my perspective...
By the way, in all of these situations, all these instances, like the expectation, and for those of you who are already in here for Israel-Palestine, you already kind of understand it, is like the expectation is that DPRK is supposed to be perfect victims in order for like the American left to ever even associate themselves with a DPRK. Okay, DPRK famously not supported by superpowers. Yes, they were, which is why their conditions were actually phenomenal, at least in the aftermath of the genocide that was conducted in North Korea. In comparison to South Korea, which was a fucking psychotic, despotic dictatorship, okay? However, having said that, of course the DPRK has a shit ton of fucking issues, right? I wouldn't want to live there. I've said this time and time again. The grave danger that the DPRK presents to the rest of the world, of course, is incredibly overstated, and it's overstated so you can justify the sanctions regime that you implement on top of North Korea. They're not perfect victims, but they shouldn't be. The greatest way to ensure democratization occurs in a country like the DPRK would be by allowing them to participate in the global marketplace. Do you think your messaging has changed over the years to bring people farther left, or do you think you've stayed the same amount of leftists and just brought more people to the left at that level? No, I mean, I've maintained these positions, especially like anti-imperialism from the jump. I think a lot of people just, I mean, including him, he's a fan of mine and has said that I have contributed to his radicalization, and even he's not aware that like I routinely talk about American imperialism. So, it's just that I think a lot of people pick and choose what they see and what they don't see, and I think that in that process, the guy who he's talking about hates you? Wait, really? I mean, whatever. I don't give a shit. Overall, as I was stating, no, I love you. No, I'm not talking about you, Comrade Casey. No. I think they're talking about the guy who you're talking about, Midwestern Marx or whatever. Comrade Casey's in the chat, by the way. He's the one who wrote this video. And I don't think the other guy hates me either. I don't really know him too well. He's like a TikTok guy, right? I think we watched a video of his where he actually defended me against like all the fucking Tumblr kiddies who behave like, the Maoist third worldist Tumblr kiddies. Anyway.
Perspective entirely and show me that the things I was taught were completely false. It made me realize
I hate when chat does this. He doesn't hate you. He was bad faith to you in a video once, but also good faith in others. Nothing a single chat offline can't handle. I don't really care, ultimately. And I don't think you guys should either. Like, don't understand that it's more that you've always maintained a historical materialist perspective on things over the years. It's not about getting more and more left. It's about recontextualizing how to view the world and events that happen. Yeah. Eddie's quick critique of HasanAbi? No.
As on a broader level, that a lot of the things I knew, a lot of the things my friends and family knew were probably also not true. I was able to realize that the American military-industrial complex, the American capitalist hegemony, is the utmost evil in this world. Not some terrorist group that we propped up for our own gain, not some third world country that we're taught to despise for absolutely no reason, but rather our own leadership here in America, our own system that we benefit from, is the problem. We are the global evil. We are the terrorists.
And for the record, this is 100% absolutely correct. And when you say it like this, so many people get so mad. They get so butthurt. They're like, well, how could you say such a thing? Like, what's the alternative? You don't understand. Like, the alternative would be so much worse. And it's always the same fucking justification. A justification for permanent genocide of the third world, okay? And unequal exchange, which hinges on endless imperialism, both through direct military intervention and also through indirect soft power style World Bank and IMF loans and the conditions that those loans come with, are not there. You cannot justify all of that by saying, in a hypothetical universe, the alternative would be so much worse. You can't do that. And many supposedly progressive people on the left, you know, love them. But unfortunately, I think they fail this test where they succumb to their own personal biases on this matter. What do I mean by this? They succumb to their own personal biases that, like, they do not know what kind of evil the other scary governments may have, what kind of evil they might bring upon the world if they were in charge. And they assume that those governments would operate exactly like we do. It's the same exact phenomena that groups in power, the in-groups, have always felt in perpetuity when they feel like their power and their influence is waning. White slave owners and even white workers in the South in the Reconstruction period felt this fear that they thought, unless we restore the racial pecking order, that black people recently freed from the chains of slavery, chattel slavery, one of the most inhumane, cruel things that humans have ever done to one another, they would turn around and treat white people the same way that white people had treated them. Now, that didn't happen. But in order to maintain that same racial pecking order, a shit ton of violence occurred.